I think the time is right, just as I said, about the emphasis on the Federal Reserve. The interest came because of the crisis that hit. Now we have a crisis of confidence in the government. They can't deliver what they tell us they will do. The conditions will get worse, so more and more people are going to say, what is going on? But the wonderful thing is we have some traditions that we can look to. We can even have a constitution. We don't have to write a new constitution. All we have to do is raise up a group of people and young people who say, yes, the founders were on the right track. Let's read the Constitution. Let's follow the Constitution. We got into trouble by avoiding and not obeying the Constitution. We can solve almost all our problems by obeying the Constitution. I have come to the conclusion in these last couple of years that indeed freedom is still very popular. So freedom has been around for a bit. The real test of freedom has been just a couple hundred years old. There's been bits and pieces over the centuries. But the grand experiment was here with our Constitution and our early history. And what I fear is that we have given up on it, that we have decided that either lack of understanding or lack of confidence that we no longer believe in it. And I see that as a tragedy. But if we do the right thing, if we can energize enough people, and it is not true that you have to wait until 51% of the people agree with us that this is a good idea, because 51% or 60% or 80% of the people never have strong views. And that's the way it is even in Washington. Attitudes are important, but if you have 3 or 4 or 5% of people determined like you to go out and present these views, study and understand them, and take a job upon yourself to spread this message, it can have an effect. What you do is very important, and what you do is going to be different one from another. Some will become teachers, and some will become writers, and some will go into the media, and some people will get into politics. There's all kinds of things. The most important thing is to study and understand and have convictions and believe in it. If you do, there will be a role to play. If you come around to the concluding that this is an important period in our history and that we have the proper answers by defending liberty, if you come to that conclusion, your life is going to be very miserable if you don't do something, because the responsibility is going to fall on your shoulders, because most people don't care. And if you do, you're going to feel more responsible. But most people find something to do. And I have dozens and dozens of people call up and said, well, because you made this suggestion, I'm doing this, I started this. But it is important to understand, the issues. I'm convinced it took me 20 years, I'm a slow learner, to unlearn all the things I was taught, that I thought were wrong. It's hard to get the bad stuff out of your mind. And so many of us have been conditioned by bad economic policies and compromising the Constitution. But I don't think it takes that long anymore, because we live in a magnificent age, and that is the internet age. This is fantastic. This is fantastic because the information spreads so quickly. The organization, the campaign we were in, the organization was spontaneous, and people got excited and did things. We didn't have central economic planning, and it worked pretty well. And I think it's going to continue that way. In the old days, it was hard to get the information, but there's an explosion of information and an explosion of interest in the freedom philosophy today, and the interest is going to grow because the necessity is there, because every single day there's going to be more and more people recognize that there's serious problems here in the government that we have in Washington. They're not giving us our answers, and we do have better answers, and we better send them a strong message. One of the things I like best about the freedom philosophy is I consider it a philosophy that brings people together. I can't see you out there, and there's different kinds of people, but very often people come and they look different. They're different ages, they have different philosophies, different religions. But if you really understand freedom, what the person sitting next to you looks like, or what they do, or what they believe in personally doesn't matter, because all of a sudden we're not competing with them. We're not challenging. We don't want to tell them what to do. We don't want to tell them how to live. We don't want to tell them how to spend their money. But if we want to improve our society, it has to be through persuasion. I want the goodness of America to be spread around the world, but I don't want it to be spread with a gun. It doesn't work. Our goodness, whether it's domestic or international, can be spread by setting good examples. If we do an excellent job here of portraying what liberty is about, have a prosperous economy and sound money and recognizing personal liberties, and it's very successful, others would say, maybe we ought to try that. Maybe these ideas can be spread, and they can be. In this day and age, these ideas spread internationally. You'd be surprised how many communications I get around the world. And this would have never happened even 10, 15 years ago. So there's sort of spreading like a prairie fire on these views. So there's very many reasons why we should be optimistic, why we should be energized, why we should do even more. But we should also be very concerned if we don't do it, things won't work out so well. And we are at a crucial point. I don't think it's like a crucial point that everything hangs on the election of this November. I don't see it quite like that. But we're in a transition point where in the next few years, this major decision will be made by the people. The type of government a country has reflects the prevailing attitude of the people. And up until now, the prevailing attitude has been welfareism and warfareism and fiat money and all these things. But what I suspect is the prevailing attitude is quickly changing, and I am delighted that I can play a small part in this, and I invite you to play a major part in it and continue this fight to restore liberty to this country. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks.
I hope those comm classes I took kick in here. I'm Gerald Dalebout, and
my name is Kyle Gray.
And we're with Young Americans for Liberty at University of Idaho, and we've... Thanks. I just hope, are you guys inspired? Yeah. Awesome. A little less than a year ago, I went over to Seattle and heard Dr. Paul speak, and it inspired me to go back to Moscow and start a club, find this guy, and we've been wreaking a lot of havoc in the name of liberty at the University of Idaho in the last about 8 months. And so if there's any of you out here that are inspired and you want to start a club on the campus here at BSU, and you want to join a club, start a club, whatever you want to do, I really just, I tell you right now that you should get on it. If you would have told me 8 months ago that we'd be up here with Dr. Paul, I would have been like, yeah, right, seriously. But in either case, Dr. Paul, it's our pleasure and privilege to present this, a token of our appreciation for all that you've done and all that you're doing to preserve liberty and to support the Constitution. We in Idaho want you to know that when you speak for state sovereignty, for private property rights and limited constitutional government, you not only represent the good people of Texas, but you represent us as well.